Okay, everyone. Welcome to Frontline Football. This is week 2 of our off-season previews. I'm sorry that the last one was pretty long, but I have a really big question today. So I was talking to some of my friends, and we were talking about different dances because there's like the Dougie, there's the Whip and Nay Nay, and then there's the Gritty and all this other stuff, and all that spawned because somebody did something along with the song. But how the heck do you do the Cupid Shuffle? It's just a bunch of directions for a song. It's like, everybody clap your hands. I don't get those type of songs, and Whip and Nay Nay too. How do those songs exist? It's just directions for a dance. It'd be better off in a dance class than it is as an actual song. And this is my weird rant of the week. I don't have any weird books anymore to read, so now I gotta rant about dances. So why the freak is the Cupid Shuffle considered a song? It's literally just a person singing directions to the right and to the left. No, that's not crisscross. It's walk by yourself, walk by yourself. How the heck is that considered a dance? Or not considered a considered a song? It's just directions for how to do a dance. Doesn't make any sense. I'm done with my rant for this week. So let's get right into the video. Roll the intro.
Oh, my bad. Hi guys, it's Zach. I'll be covering season previews. We're doing the Browns to start off. I guess I'll introduce them, and then introduce them all differently. So the Browns cap space is pretty good. Their biggest needs are wide receiver, defensive line, quarterback, linebacker, edge rusher, second edge rusher, not first edge rusher, because they're pretty good on that. And then guys to bring back is Jadeveon Clowney, that would help the edge rushing category, and then David Njoku, which is a tight end, which we didn't put on the list, but they still do need if he does not show up. Now I'm gonna talk about wide receivers. I guess I'll just start us off. Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay trade. There it is. Now I found where I got scared. Okay, that's besides the point. Yeah. So Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, and Devonte Adams. They have enough cap space, and I like the Devonte Adams move. If they can get a good quarterback in there, like, or say, maybe Aaron Rodgers, which I know that he's never been rumored to the Browns, but imagine seeing Aaron Rodgers, Devonte Adams, Nick Chubb, and all that group. That would be a pretty awesome duo. Kirk Cousins could go there, and then Devonte Adams. I know that there's a lot of options that the Browns are right now at quarterback, so I think Allen Robinson fits a lot with it, especially because Jarvis does not know where he's going to be, and after, like, where the Browns are going to keep him, so that's pretty good. Defensive line, Devontae Wyatt, he's really good. He's coming out of Georgia, pretty good. Hakeem Hicks, pretty good. Malik Collins, I really like these guys, and I believe that they could be a big contributor with Myles Garrett on that team. Quarterback, I literally just mentioned this. Aaron Rodgers could go, like I said up there, but also Deshaun Watson has been rumored, and Russell Wilson sometimes. Kirk Cousins has also been there, and if they don't like any of those guys, Kenny Pickett's always a great option. He scored 42 touchdowns. He was really flashy at Pittsburgh, and he could be a great fit for what the Browns are at right now. So, yeah. The other guys, I can see them taking Malik Willis. I also see them taking Sam Howell. They're in that range. And then linebacker, Cavandre Campbell is a really good guy coming out of Green Bay. He played pretty solid. He was a really good, actually not pretty solid. He played really solid for the linebacker. Gerard Davis didn't really see the field too much for the Jets, but I believe that he'll start seeing the field a lot more. He did pretty well in Detroit, and I believe he could do that with the Browns. And then KJ Wright has been a pretty solid piece for the Seattle Seahawks. He didn't really show it with the Raiders when they signed him, but I feel like KJ Wright can still bring a team pretty good. The edge rushers are all guys that I kind of trust, but Clowney I trust a lot, and I still like Clowney a lot as a player. So I think Clowney is really good, especially at the age he is. I think the Browns could get a Super Bowl if they can just start building now. Like a good team because they got a good team going. Jason Pierre-Paul, this is like an all-in situation if they're getting JPP. He's very old, and I feel like he only has a couple more good years left, and then he's going to be done. Or they go with a young option, Jermaine. I thought that said Davis. Jermaine Jason. Okay, this guy's pretty young. Coming out of college, he looked really good, and Browns go with him. I believe they're a really solid edge rusher. I believe he's coming out of Florida State, and Florida State creates decent edge rushers. So, yeah. I'm going to hand this one off to Jack.
Cleveland. Fun place right now. Some interesting moves need to be made in this offseason. Now, of course, the number one priority right now is probably Jadeveon Clowney. Bring him back to put him next to Myles Garrett again, and Njoku, who's been a solid complementary tight end to Austin Hooper when he's needed. But by far, the number one need on the Browns right now is wide receiver. You just look, and it's a problem. Not to mention, Jarvis Landry is very upset, apparently. He posted a bunch of Twitter stuff saying that the Browns don't like him, and they messed up his injury, and he may demand a release or something. That's not a guarantee, but that's very uncertain about Landry's future moving forward. So we'll see where that goes. But either way, they still need receivers. I think signing A-Rob to not necessarily a prove-it deal, but less money than we would have gotten last year to prove the doubters wrong and prove that down year in Chicago is because of injury, that would definitely help. This one's an interesting one. Explore a trade option for Kenny Golladay, because I don't know if the Giants really want that nasty contract on their books, just because I don't know where they view themselves. And then, of course, if you want to go all in and use all the money at once, go for Devonte Adams. That's a receiver. That'll definitely help. Then you could draft a receiver, and then boom, you have like the best offense skill position-wise in the league. Next up is definitely the interior D-line. They have decent edge pressure, but they've lost Ogunjobi last year. They had Sheldon Richardson, had to cut him because of money, so they're losing a lot of guys over the last couple years. I think this could come in an Akeem Hicks, a solid veteran, could come join the Browns squad. That would be interesting. Malik Collins would also be a nice addition. I think something to consider at the top of the second round is take Devonte Wyatt out of Georgia. I think he's one of the best D-line prospects right now. I think that would fit well. That would be a high-end D-line prospect coming in, put him with Myles Garrett, and potentially a secondary edge rusher that you re-sign or take in the draft. I think your D-line would be very nice. Now here's the scenario. Number 3 is where you don't believe in Baker Mayfield. You don't like Baker Mayfield. Maybe you even hate him. So you have a couple scenarios here. You can make a trade for Russ. This would make sense because he'd be leaving the NFC, so Seattle wouldn't really have to worry about it. We'll see if that goes through. You could also go for Deshaun Watson. I don't know if Houston will trade him in conference. Maybe. It's possible. And then last but not least, you could draft a new quarterback and just start fresh with Kenny Pickett. I don't know what this means for Baker Mayfield and his trade value, but overall, this would be a scenario where you feel that Baker Mayfield cannot elevate your squad to be championship-level team. So that will be interesting, something that you should definitely at least consider exploring if you're the Browns GM. Fourth need is probably linebacker. They have JOK, but they probably need another person next to him, or at the very least to add some depth to the position. Devonte Campbell was a beast in Green Bay. He played very well. I think if you add him and JOK, it's one of the better linebacker tandems in the league. Gerard Davis would be a nice complementary linebacker too. He didn't play pretty much at all in New York, but he was very decent on the Lions. He's just a rock-solid player. And then KJ Wright, of course. He's older, but I think he would also fit well next to JOK, the young and the old. But either way, adding a second linebacker would definitely help this defense. And then last but not least, they need a second edge rusher, whether that comes in a Clowney re-sign, which is probably the number one scenario, or you could go with a veteran like JPP, or you could even draft someone like Jermaine Jason or Johnson, I don't remember which one, in the draft. That would also be very beneficial. And I think overall, you definitely need to address it. You need someone next to Myles Garrett. I think your priority right now is to get more wide receiver playmakers on the outside of the field and then work on your interior D-line to boost it up to create a better team to hopefully get back to that playoff level that you were at just a year ago. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Well, this is one of two ways that the Browns can go about this situation. They can do the Browns thing, blow it all up, and rebuild again. That's one way they can handle this. Or they can try to build for the future. Because I think with a couple fixes, especially getting Baker Mayfield out, would probably be the best idea for them So I don't think Clowney is the best move here. I think it's better to draft someone along with a wide receiver, along with a quarterback that maybe doesn't start the first year, but will be a starter down the line. So, yeah, I think that these are all very good people, especially Njoku to bring back. But you'd have to give him more of a role in the offense. I don't know, maybe trade away Austin Hooper. Because this two tight end system has already shown that it's not working. So I think that they need to fix up these positions, and they could be Super Bowl contenders. So I would say one of the people who you should not do is trade for, because if you haven't heard, the judge for Watson's case said that 9 of the 21 cases that he is going through, the civil cases, he has to do them under oath. If you don't know what under oath means, it's a legal term that basically means that he has to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So he can go around this situation even if his lawyer tells him to, because that would be bad to do, and it could lead to some punishment in the future. So, with all that said, I think that the Browns just need some wide receiver to help their core, because Jarvis is probably out of there. A quarterback to help them lead the pack, maybe not this year, but in a couple years, and just some edge presence to be trained up by Myles Garrett to help down the line.
All right. Our next team is the Baltimore Ravens. They are not looking at a great cap situation. Better than most. I believe that they actually have the worst. They do. This is the worst cap situation in their division. After a very disappointing season this year with them not even showing up to the playoffs, they have a lot of needs. Interior O-line, wide receiver, safety, right tackle, and defensive end. To bring back, pretty important, Calais Campbell, Justin Houston was a big contributor, and Jimmy Smith. I'm going to hand this one off to Josh.
Okay, so the Ravens here, they are going to need to make sure to bolster up that O-line. Their tackle this year in Villanueva did not work out as their free agent. And Lamar had a really tough time once his people got injured. Because here's the thing. The Ravens had a good lineup going into the season, but they couldn't stay healthy. The big need for them this year is to find people who can stay on the field, because they did not do what the Tennessee Titans did. Most of the Tennessee Titans were in a cakewalk of a division in the AFC South, but that's besides the point. The Ravens need to find some healthy options, get their team healthy, and I think that they could probably be playoff contenders, if not Super Bowl contenders. So, right now, they need to be very sparse with their money and start drafting at their needs, especially O-line this year. Big need. And they need to make sure to at least re-sign Justin Houston. Maybe not Calais Campbell, because Calais Campbell is getting older, and he's probably better on a team that needs that old defensive lineman to train up a younger defensive lineman. So I think with this offseason, re-sign Justin Houston and fill your needs in the draft. So I'm going to hand this one off to Zach.
All right, well, Justin Houston is a huge piece here. Like Josh said, they probably should sign him. Interior line, Ryan Jensen, all of them. Like Josh said, I believe that they should go in the draft to find these guys, but there's not a lot of. This is not a very stacked interior O-line class. The best guy that they can probably get their hands on is Kenyon Green, which is not the best. That would be a huge reach in where they're picking. But let's go down to wide receiver. They had a decent wide receiver core. I believe that they could also sign Sammy Watkins back. Didn't really show too much to Lamar this season. But I think that they really need a true number one option. Hollywood Brown does do well in spurts. But none of these guys, I believe, could do well. Jameson Crowder, not a number one option. Albert Wilson, I don't know who that is, but very interesting. I think the best guy here is Jameson Williams. He's coming out of Alabama. The only thing that kind of scares me is that ACL tear. But other than that one ACL tear, which Josh said that they probably should get healthy, so Jameson Williams doesn't seem like the best option, I still think he's a really good player. Safety is really interesting. If they could find a young safety, especially for the Ravens' point, are right now that does not want to get paid, like a very underrated one like Terrell Edmonds, I think that they could be really solid. Now they also could go all in with getting like Xavier Rhodes, Anthony Harris, Marcus May. All those guys are pretty good. Right tackle, if Charles Cross can fall down, because Charles Cross has been raising his draft stock every single time. If he could fall that low, I would love to see that. Trent Brown, I don't think that's in like the really big payroll unless they're again going all in. Morgan Mosley, not that bad. I don't think that they should go for him. Um, Now this defensive end stuff. Sheldon Richardson's a very solid guy. I think that they should go for probably a different guy, probably an edge a little later, or defensive end a little later in the second round, maybe third round. Because at this point, the Ravens are right now, I think the best thing to get is Justin Houston and Calais Campbell back. And then that will hopefully help your D-line for a little bit of time. And then Jimmy Smith, get him back too, because that would be a helpful piece. So, yeah. Jack?
Now, the Ravens, unfortunately, they don't get as many fun options as everybody else does in the AFC North because they don't have the kind of big bucks. Now, guys to bring back, that's half their D-line right there. Calais Campbell and Justin Houston. Jimmy Smith has been a solid corner for them, but knowing their luck with corner injuries, they probably need to get him back. So the number one need by far is interior O-line. Ryan Jensen, that would be nice. That would be really nice, but he's going to be asking for a lot of money that I don't know, I'm not sure if they have right now, so they're going to have to go to the budget bin to find some solid players. Louverant, Duvernay, Tardif. He played very good the second half of the season with the Jets. He could be a solid ad for a reasonable deal. Justin Brits, another one. I don't know how he did in Houston last season, but I don't know if that's necessarily ideal if Justin Brits on your starting O-line. But Tardif would be a nice target, but they need to go for someone that's like budget bin, or they need to just draft, because there's a couple guys that could probably get in the second round or late first if they're willing to do that. Number two needs probably receiver. Sammy Watkins, I think, was on a one-year deal, so they're going to need to consider bringing him back. Hollywood's always good, but other than that, I think it's like Devin Duvernay, who's like a return specialist, and he really shouldn't be like your starting outside receiver. They could go a couple ways. They could always draft Jameson Williams. If he gets 100% healthy, he could be dominant, and then put him next to Hollywood Brown, and they could thrive together. You could go for someone, a veteran in the slot, old reliable Jamison Crowder. He could always be solid. Or maybe you just really like speed, and you're going to go with Albert Wilson, who's pretty much just a below-average speedster. But he would be a budget option, definitely. Next up, third is safety. I think Marcus May could make a lot of sense. Get him on a prove-it deal. He just tore his Achilles. He could be the near Pro Bowl player that he was last year. They could bid a really nice deal for cheap money. Anthony Harris and Xavier Rhodes are other options that aren't going to be super expensive and will improve your secondary. Very underrated signings here. Now, right tackle is a must. The Alejandro Villanueva guy, I don't know. He's not good. I watched him get beat a lot last season. I think Trent Brown's, that's the big one if you can get him. I don't know what his asking price is nowadays. Charles Cross, well, I thought Charles Cross made sense at the time, but apparently he's flying up the draft board, so we'll see if he even gets to the Ravens' first round pick. That's something to watch. And Morgan Moses, who's pretty average at this point, but he's healthy. That's the key. He's never missed a game before. He's gotten hurt, but he's never missed a start in his career. So if you want someone that's not going to get hurt, Morgan Moses is your guy. And then last but not least, you have defensive end. These are some other budget options. Just Dante Fowler, Sheldon Richardson, Brandon Williams. I'm guessing it would be more ideal to bring back one of your guys, but if you can't do it, these guys are all very solid. But overall, Ravens, they just need to stay healthy, a little bit of injury luck, and they need to improve the O-line. That's my number one priority for them this offseason.
All right, our next team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is a really interesting team, especially because they have a lot of cap space this year because Big Ben's not there, Le'Veon's out there, and AB is not there, which is the big Bs. So, the guys that they need to bring back, there's a lot. Terrell Edmonds, Juju, Zach Banner, Wilson. I can't say the last name, sorry. Okay, well, we're going to just get to their team needs. They need quarterback, O-line, D-line, and cornerback and edge rusher. Jack, you like to take this?
All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers. What a fun team. They somehow made the playoffs, stumbled, tripped in thanks to some incidents down in Jacksonville, Florida, as usual. But some guys to bring back. Of course, there's Juju Smith, even though I'd literally bet everything that he's not coming back. He posted a picture on his Instagram with a U-Haul saying, "Peace out, Pittsburgh." That's not a good sign. Not really ideal at all. Tyson Halunu, Zach Banner, and Terrell Edmonds. Those are some medium to high-end guys, not any high-end, but you have money, so that's good. You didn't have money last year, I remember. Number one need is quarterback. Dwayne Haskins, Mason Rudolph fight to the death isn't really ideal for a team. If I was a betting man, I'd go with their drafting somebody. They liked Kenny Pickett at the Senior Bowl. They must have watched Sam Howell. Maybe they like him too. We'll see which quarterback they take, but I just got a feeling that they're going to take one of them. Or maybe they just say, screw it. We're going to take Andy Dalton and wait another year on quarterback. That's not really ideal, but it's always possible with the Steelers. Second need is O-line. I don't know how Big Ben survived last year. Their O-line is pretty bad for the most part. But the good news is they could get some potential reinforcements. Ben Jones and Matt Paradis will both be underrated free agent signings. I think they play center. Both of them play center. They'd be solid centers. But Teron Armstead is still a very high-level tackle in the league. So if the Steelers would kind of have to sell him on coming there, but they can't afford him. I just think there's a chance that he gets scooped up by a potential division rival that's looking up. The third need is probably D-line. Their D-line's it has good pieces, but it's older now. You could sign Gerald McCoy, Lemuel Joseph, and Solomon Thomas. Those are all budget or veteran options, so that would be if you're confident that you're a playoff or Super Bowl contender. But it's definitely possible you get one of these guys. Gerald McCoy, I'm not sure how much he's even going to command because I think he missed all of last year. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do here. Cornerback's definitely another big need. What's it called? Joe Hayden's the only guy really left there. But you could add Stefan Gilmore. That would be a nice add. A veteran. That would be interesting. Kyle Fuller would be super good on the Steelers. That makes a lot of sense as well. Or you could have a homecoming with Steven Nelson. That would always be sweet. I'm not sure how he felt about the Steelers, but now that they can have money, maybe he'll come back. We'll see on that, though. And next, similar to the Browns, I'm not saying they need number one edge rusher, but they need a complementary edge rusher to be next to TJ Watt. And a couple guys that could potentially thrive next to him is Dante Fowler, who's had his ups and downs in his career. He tried to be a premier edge rusher in Atlanta. That did not work at all. They had like 13 total sacks all season. Very bad. Derek Barnett's another solid rotational piece on the edge rush. But I think one that makes a lot of sense is Hassan Reddick. That guy gets a lot of sacks when he's next to a good edge rusher, whether that's Chandler Jones in Arizona or Brian Burns most recently in Carolina. Put him next to TJ Watt, and I think you'd have a surprisingly productive season coming out of Hassan Reddick. But overall, Steelers, add an edge rusher, figure out the O-line, and most of all, what are you doing with the quarterback position? Do you really want to ride with Mason Rudolph, or are you going to draft a quarterback and be reasonable? What are your thoughts, Josh?
I think here's their best plan for this offseason. Number one, sign Terrell Edmonds. Do not sign Juju Smith because he's probably out of there already. It's no Lualu. He's probably not going to help you as much. And then Zach Banner. Just re-sign Terrell Edmonds. Get him under contract so then you have some help with your defense. And then make sure that you draft a quarterback. Now, I'd recommend for your spot that you select Desmond Ridder. I know he's a little bit, but hear me out. He's probably better than Sam Howell, and I see him as a better player in general than Sam Howell. He's a little bit of a project, but if you saw what he did at Cincinnati, you will probably agree with me. It's either him or Kenny Pickett. Those are the two guys who I think would be really good for the Steelers. So that would be a good idea. And then make sure you invest in a line. I don't care if they're budget pieces or if you get them in the late rounds of the draft. You need to protect Najee and whoever your QB1 will be. If that's Mason Rudolph, if that's your first round pick, you need protection for them. You don't go into anything without protection. That is what I've always learned. So you need protection. Make sure you got your protection or else you're going to get stuff that you don't want in the area where the quarterbacks were. Don't take that any other way anymore. Okay, so quarterback, Probably going to need some because, like Jack said, Joe Hayden's going to be the only person in the backfield, and one corner cannot take down the whole thing. So you need to make sure to have some good defense, like a VPN. This is not a VPN ad, so don't take it that way. And then, what's it called? That is probably your offseason move. Focus a lot on your offense so that Najee can get working and that offense working, and you can have a passing and running attack instead of Najee. So, that's my thing. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Well, with quarterback, I like Sam Howell. I think that there's been reports that they want Kenny Pickett. It would be a hometown kid. He'd actually play pretty well. I don't think Andy Dalton should ever be in the conversation for this, but sure, he's here. There's also Deshaun Watson trade rumors going around about the Steelers. Kind of funny because, yeah. All right, O-line. Ben Jones, really good center for the Tennessee Titans. Paradis, I believe that is. I don't really know, but pretty solid center also. And then Terron Armstead is a really good deal. They have the money, like Jack said, but I think that they should probably go for it because there's no pain in trying a guy that's like the only biggest problem is he's in his 30s. So you need to start winning now. Like, this is the time. Gerald McCoy, he got injured last year. He'll be on a cheap deal. Solomon Thomas is really good for the D-line, but this doesn't really need to be like a huge. I understand it's a need and everything. Like, TJ Watt gets you all of your sacks, pressures, and all that. He's kind of like the new Aaron Donald or new like JJ Watt. Like, he's the brand new guy, and he's awesome at his job. If you can just get a solid guy in like the interior, maybe also Sue would be good. So yeah, Stefan Gilmore. I don't really like it, but there's other stuff. They can also get J.C. Jackson. Kyle Fuller sounds amazing there, and Steven Nelson. I don't know how well he was at Pittsburgh. I think he did pretty solid, but I don't know if he would want to come back to Pittsburgh, which is the biggest problem I'm having. Oh, edge rushers. Dante Fowler, he could be a really good second option. On the other side is TJ. That would be amazing. Derek Barnett, pretty good too. Like Jack said, the Falcons try to make him into a number one. It was not a number one. And I like this move. Hassan Reddick sounds like a Steeler, and he probably will be, in my opinion, after this offseason. And I want Hassan Reddick so bad back in the Cardinals, but doesn't fall like that, and he is really good. I believe he got 12 sacks this season, which is his second consecutive double-digit sack. He's getting these really late in his career. He's 27 years old, and he's really doing well. I think they should re-sign Juju. Like, I know I just switched takes real quick, but guys to bring back, I think that they really should re-sign Juju. He's young. The only problem is he makes TikTok dances, and he plays pretty well. And then Terrell Edmonds is a must-sign. He's 25. He's the youngest guy in this free agency class. That is a big name, and he is a very good safety. So, yeah. All right. Our next team for the AFC is the Cincinnati Bengals. Their needs are O-line. They were horrible this year. D-line, corner, tight end, linebacker. To bring back. These guys are pretty important. CJ Uzama, big part in the Super Bowl run. Larry Ogunjobi, I believe I'm saying that right. And Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates is probably the best safety in the league. So yeah. And I'm gonna hand this one off to Jack.
The Cincinnati Bengals are in a very, very, very good position this offseason. Imagine going to the Super Bowl and then having $50 million to spend. That's ridiculous. That's awesome. But there are some very important people that are going to start to make that number go down. Like top 3 to 5 safety in the league. Jesse Bates, pretty important to your football team. He probably needs to be back. CJ Uzama, he would be nice to bring back if you can. But if not, there are other tight ends in this free agent class that are very interested in Cincinnati. And then last but not least, defensive line star Larry Ogunjobi. Yep, that's how I say it. A lot of hard names on this list, but he's been very solid for the Bengals, and I think it would go a long way. Number one need is still offensive line. Joe Burrow is still getting killed. I know they made the Super Bowl. That doesn't make Jamar Chase the wrong pick, but they still need an O-line. Jonah Williams is fine, but everybody else needs to be up for consideration. The veteran tackles and guards need to be in deep consideration here. Brian Jensen and Brandon Scherf, very, very good elite level players. If you add it to the O-line, it could be a potential game changer. Or Teron Armstead, or get two of them if you want. You can afford two of them. You might as well get two of them if you can. But overall, one of these star O-linemen needs to be in Cincinnati to help Joe Burrow out. Second biggest need is D-line. They have the edge rushers. They have Hubbard, Hendrickson. Yep, his name is Hendrickson. That's another good one they have. But they need the interior with Ogunjobi leaving. The uncertainty is a little concerning. We'll see. You could get a veteran, though, like Akeem Hicks, but I think it's most ideal just to keep the D-line intact the way it is, bringing back Ogunjobi. Cornerback, this is a big one. They have Eli Apple, who's not good at all. They also have Mike Hilton, but they could use number one. I've heard some J.C. Jackson Bengals connections. J.C. Jackson's liking Bengals stuff on Twitter. We'll see if that's just like a strategy for free agency or if he really wants to go to the Bengals, but that would be an awesome signing to add to the Bengals secondary, especially bring back Jesse Bates, then you're talking. But there's some other options. You could go get J.C. Jackson's former teammate and Stefan Gilmore, or you could go for the vet and Pat Pete, who can still play ball. Fourth need is tight end if you can't get Uzuma back. Gesicki, he's like a borderline receiver. He's just a really big receiver, but the more the merrier receivers. Schultz is a very good all-around tight end. And, of course, if you could somehow get Gronk over here, that would always be fun. Gronk and the Bengals. That'd be a fun little group. But overall, you need to either re-sign Uzuma or get one of these guys. And last but not least, get another linebacker. That's probably going to come in a veteran, cheaper deal like Jayon Brown, Anthony Barr, that kind of deal. Or you could go in like the second round with Aaliyah Chenal, who's been a solid player for the most part. But overall, you'd like to add some to the linebacker core, but it's not the massive concern for the most part. But overall, Bengals, just do one thing. You could add a cornerback, fix your secondary up a little more, but just get an O-line, please, so Joe Burrow can continue to dominate. What are your thoughts, Zach?
With this, they were my Super Bowl favorites. They didn't do well enough. I like the Ryan Jensen, Brandon Scherf, Teron Armstead. Those are all three of the best. That's the best center, that's the best tackle, and that's the best guard in this class. That tells you something about this. The only person that we didn't put down that was the best O-line prospect is freaking Trent Brown and Eric Fisher. You could sign any of those guys, and it would be an amazing signing. If they can just work on the O-line, they are Super Bowl, not even just contenders. They are Super Bowl winners, in my opinion, because there is no stopping the Bengals and Joe Burrow if they just get him an O-line. D-line, Larry Ogunjobi, we talked about him. He's pretty solid. He had a decent season this year. I think that if they really want to re-sign him, they should. Akeem Hicks, that would be like an all-in situation because he is 33. He could play on a cheap deal. This is the interesting one. I like these corners. J.C. Jackson, really interesting. He's been liking Bengals stuff like Jack said. It's really a good idea to get J.C. Jackson. He can lock down Cooper Kupp if they have to face Cooper Kupp again. He can do everything that they want him to do. And I think that J.C. Jackson should go to Cincinnati. Another guy is Pat Pete. I love Pat Pete. I'm a Cardinals fan. I will always love Pat Pete. And he didn't play too well for Minnesota. Maybe getting like J.C. Jackson or Gilmore and then getting Pat Pete as like a second option guy or maybe even a third option could help a lot. He could give some veteran leadership to a very young cornerback core. And then finally Gilmore. I mean, if you get Gilmore, you don't really need Pat Pete then, but I like these corners that we chose, so yeah. At end, you can go with CJ Uzama. He played a huge role, like I said, in the playoffs. He was kind of that main motivator in those games, and I think that he did pretty well. Other guys is Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, and Rob Gronkowski. The reason why we put Gronk here instead of him retiring is Gronk said that he would like to play with Joe Burrow. So, why don't we just put him on the Bengals list? Dalton Schultz is also a really solid guy. He had an amazing season. I think this is his best season in Dallas. great timing because it's a contract year this year. And finally, Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki plays really well. He plays like a wide receiver, but built like Kyle Pitts. So pretty good. Linebacker Anthony Barr on a cheap deal would be nice. Jayon Brown, he played really well for the Titans. I think he had 48% of the snaps, so probably more snaps. And Leo Cledici played really well at Oklahoma. Posted some great stats. Not the best. He's like my fifth or third best. I think he's my fourth best linebacker in this class. So yeah. Yeah, Josh.
Okay, well, I have a couple things to say about this team, and I'm just going to say them right now. So, first, let's talk about who they need to re-sign. They need to re-sign everybody but Eli Apple, because, and I got to stand up for this one, because of how much terrible stuff I saw in the Super Bowl. Eli Apple was getting burned more times than California. People in HE double hockey stick, people in hell are saying that he got burned more than they do. And he said they lit some demon under him? That is stupid. Because I haven't seen this demon in New York, I haven't seen it in New Orleans, and I haven't seen it in Cincinnati. Where has it been all your career? Oh, I must have forgot. You must where it belongs. Because you can't guard. You get burned every single time. You got burned in the biggest game. Just accept it, Eli Apple. Take your pay somewhere else and never be on a Super Bowl team again. I don't even want you on the Texans. Just get out of any good team. Go to Jacksonville, for all I care. Go to Jacksonville. That's it. Okay. Now since I'm done with my rant on Eli Apple, they need to re-sign everybody on that list. Those 3 players that you see, they need to re-sign. Now, Uzama is probably their littlest need, but $50 million like Jackson is a lot to spend, especially for a Super Bowl contender. And I will say, spend it on protection. Protection. There we go. Protection. Read it again. Protection. Because you got to have protection with whatever you do, and I'm going to keep saying that for linemen. Protection, protection, protection. You need protection. Joe Burrow needs to quit getting sacked 9 and 5 times. I have seen people more inside the O-line than inside anything that I've ever seen. I won't say it on here. But Joe Burrow is getting sacked so many times that some people in, what's it called? That some people, like the opponents that Jorge Masvidal has, are saying to quit beating him up because they're thinking of it as abuse. Heck, even some of the times, I think that it should be considered abuse what they're doing to him. Because they don't protect him, and the linemen try to mouth off at all these players, and they can't because they stink. So, you need to get protection, protection, protection. That must have been what they were using. That's probably why there was all those pregnancies after the Super Bowl. Van Jefferson was probably using the Bengals O-line for that. They need protection, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it straight. They need protection. That is what they need. They need to protect themselves and protect their star-studded piece who's already torn every single ligament in his body. So you need to protect him. Okay, I'm done with my rant. Re-sign those people and get your team back to where it needs and win a Super Bowl this time. Okay, Bengals?
All right. Okay. Is that it for your take, Josh?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, I guess we go on to the NFC North now with the Lions. And I guess I'll take this one over. All right. Lions team needs quarterback.